Performance and Intelligence Computing Group or Lab based at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. We are happy to have you around. HiPIC is into multidisciplinary research. We focus in the area of healthcare, agriculture, and other associated fields. And tonight, we want to continue from our series. We've had 2 sessions already. The first one focused on the introduction to machine learning. And last Friday, we had one again that was talking about data governance and ethical AI. Today, we will be delving much more into, today we'll be going deeper into responsible AI, and the person to take the topic for tonight is a seasoned researcher and a member of the HiPIC lab, and it's no other person than our able speaker, Dr. Blessing Ogbuokiri. And before giving the floor, I want to take a little time to talk about his bio. So Dr. Blessing Ogbuokiri is an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science at Brock University, Canada. He specializes in machine and its application in health. He has extensive experience in machine learning, natural language processing, and theoretical computing. Dr. Ogbuokiri focuses on developing predictive models for infectious diseases, with a particular emphasis on understanding disease transmission dynamics and evaluating public health intervention. He leads the Applied Machine Learning Lab at Brock University, Canada, where he works on advancing ML methodologies and their applications to real-world challenges. Dr. Ogbuokiri operates across disciplines to address community-based infectious diseases and outbreaks, including COVID-19, malaria, and monkeypox. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dr. Ogbuokiri. You're welcome.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I would like to share my screen first. Then, if you have any question as I'm going to do my talk, you can put it on the chat. Or if there is a contribution you want to make, you can put it on the chat. Thank you very much. So today, I'm going to be talking about responsible AI and ethical consideration. And this is season 3 of the HiPIC series, lecture series, HiPIC Lab lecture series. My name is Dr. Blessing Ogbuokiri, as the speaker said. Before I proceed, it will be interesting to also, talk about some of the learning objectives. So at the end of this lecture today, I expect that the participants will be able to understand the origin and definition of responsible AI, recognize the importance of ethics in AI development. They should also be able to explore key principles like fairness, accountability, and transparency in AI. Audience should also be able to they will also learn to identify bias in AI systems, explore methods to mitigate bias, and apply ethical frameworks to ensure AI aligns with societal values. So this is what we intend to cover today, and I expect that people will be able to understand it. Our outline is going to run this way. We'll start with the principles of responsible AI. We'll focus on the ethics in AI development and the deployment. Then we're still going to talk about fairness, accountability, and transparency. Then we'll also focus on bias and fairness in AI itself. And we'll focus on the understanding and detecting bias. Then we'll talk about techniques to mitigate bias in AI. Okay, so just before I continue, I remember last week we talked about the data governance. But I'd like to do some quick recap on the data governance that we discussed last week, so that to keep it fresh in our mind. So starting with the data collection and privacy, which is some of the things we're supposed to cover, we'll talk about data collection, and we see data collection for AI that it actually involves collecting relevant and accurate information from various sources. So if you want to collect data for AI or for your model, it has to come from different sources, depending on what you are working on. There are best practices to actually follow when you want to collect data. One is use clear consent forms. It is important that when you want to collect data, you try as much as you can to get the consent of the people you want to collect their data or data from. It is not. It is very it is very unethical to go collect people's data without their consent. Then you collect only necessary data. So you don't go start collecting data that is not needed for the project. Ensure transparency with data subjects. So when you want to collect data, you need to let people know what you are using their data for and the expected end of the project. Another thing is designing effective data collection strategies. So first, you have to develop a plan that specifies what data to collect and how to handle it. So if you want to collect the data, you need to be sure what you want to do with the data and how you're going to handle it. Then you implement methods to avoid data bias. Like I said, if you want to collect data, you don't have to collect it in a way that it has to be biased against a particular subject. For instance, you want to collect data and you see that your data is only favoring a particular gender. Apparently, the data is already biased, and the model you're going to write build with that data is already biased. We also, sorry, we also talk about ensuring data quality. Ensuring data quality. So I was talking about some of the challenges in data collection. So I mentioned the strategies. So I said we can develop plans, that plans that helps us to, collect our data and handle it the appropriate way. We can also ensure data quality by relying on, by regularly cleaning the data and validate the data. We can also monitor data sources for consistency and all that. Okay. Okay, so the next thing is privacy and security. So we want talking about privacy and security. We refer to focus on data privacy concerns and regulatory frameworks. In terms of that, some of the regulatory frameworks is that one, you have to adhere to regulations like the GDPR and CCPA. The GDPR is the General Data Protection. It's like a regulatory body for the European Union. What they do is to provide comprehensive guidelines on data protection and privacy for all individuals. Then we also have the CCP, which is the California Consumer Privacy Act. So what it does is it's more like instead of the act law that guides the design to enhance privacy rights and the design of AI in order to enhance privacy rights and consumer protection for the residents of California, actually. So it is also very important to know that these are like regulatory bodies that helps us to preserve our security. We also have the issue of addressing privacy concerns by anonymizing data and obtaining explicit consent. When you want to build AI products, it is also very important that the data set that you have, you don't have to allow people's name to be out there. Okay, you have to anonymize people's name, you know, that so that people will not be biased or know, especially when you are working with something like medical records. Sometimes you see that people don't want to make their medical records, they don't want to put it out there for people to see, because that way you won't be able to judge them and say they are suffering from a particular disease or not. So we have techniques for ensuring data security. Number one is encrypt sensitive data to protect it from unauthorized access. So it is very important to encrypt data to, you know, avoid unauthorized access to it. For example, you know, when you have data like credit card records of people or customers, you know, so a company should be able to store or kind of encrypt the credit card record of their customers, even when it is in their database. So if an intruder comes into the system, you get the record, but you will not be able to get the encryption code to be able to know what is inside. So encrypting the sensitive data is very important. And one of that sensitive data could be customers' credit card numbers. Then also implement strong authentication method and access control. This has to do with, you know, you could actually do a two-factor authentication. Like you see, most technologies these days in your bank apps, you see that if you log into your bank app, it will send a notification code to your security software that asks you to use that software to put back to the banking app for you to be able to have access. That is a two-factor authentication. Some also use facial recognition. Then I think Google also does that right now. If you log in your Google account or Gmail account, as the case may be, to an unknown device, Google would want to, you know, send a notification to an authenticator to allow you to be able to have access to that. So if the person that is logging in is not the real person, it's not going to work. Then also regularly update security protocols and perform audits. It is also very important to to regularly update, you know, to have a regular update of the system. You know, you can have a scheduled regular update for your firewalls to make sure that they are still the way you left them, and you also conduct quarterly security audits to identify and address vulnerabilities in the organization tools or organization IT infrastructure, as the case may be. So these are most of the privacy concerns that we have concerning the privacy and security in AI. So I just wanted to do a quick recap to the discussion last week. So let me quickly go to what I'm supposed to talk to, which is principles of responsible AI. Now, talking about how do we come about responsible AI? You know, there's this fuse about everybody talking about responsible AI, responsible AI. What is it all about? What is actually responsible AI? And before we say what the responsible AI is, how did we come about responsible AI? Number one thing is the growing influence of AI in critical areas. You know, example, you have the healthcare, you have the finance, and you have the law enforcement. There is a lot of influence now. A lot of people are now employing AI technologies into their systems. We have seen the evolution of ChatGPT and large language models. These things have come to stay, and they are, you know, are being applied in everywhere. So if you don't checkmate how these things are, how the AI is being developed, or how it is deployed, or how people use it, then it's going to be a problem that's going to, you know, blow up to the extent that nobody's going to be able to control it. Then we have high-profile cases of AI failure leading to unfair or unbiased outcomes. Now, we've seen cases where AI systems, you know, misclassified,
people, especially maybe facial recognition, maybe the data the AI model was trained on is not good enough to consider the minority group. That is where you now see a Black person goes to the system, it classifies that person as a criminal. And that's kind of misidentity, as the case may be. But the system was trained, that means the system was trained with a biased data. So some of these things are coming up, and we've seen cases where AI systems fail, like autonomous vehicles, where they fail. These are the failures we see in AI systems, and is bringing a lot of concerns. Concerns over privacy, accountability, and transparency in AI systems. Now, there is the issue of people not, being able to know what happens at the back end of the system. Multinational AI developing companies they just want to maximize profits. That's why you talk about utilitarianism, and the ontology. So they don't want to, they don't want to focus more, they want to focus more on utilitarianism, where they are more of the making gains. Okay, they look at their systems. If it works for a large number of persons, then the minority group is going to be ignored. These are the concerns that are coming up. People are now, stakeholders, policymakers are worried that how can we continue to have these systems come and, mess up things, we don't know what happens. Another thing is we have cases where the CEO of Meta, which is Facebook, formerly Facebook, was actually taken to court because when you register on Facebook, you put in data and photograph. They take your data without your consent and use it to build models, use it to build recommender systems, and sell it without your consent. You don't even know how they monitor what you do on that place. So arguments are coming in that you guys are using there is no privacy anymore. Nobody's being held accountable. You just use people's data and without any accountability. So these are the things that actually gave rise to the word responsible AI, because we're now beginning to, say, how can we have an AI system that can accommodate, the issue of privacy, accountability, transparency in the same system without being biased. Now, there's also the need for ethical guideline to ensure AI benefits society while minimizing harm. So we are looking at a system where we build AI systems that will benefit human, that will be good for all. Okay, that's actually the right way to say it. AI systems that will be good for all. So that gave us the idea of responsible AI. So by definition, we say that responsible AI refers to the development and use of AI systems that adhere to ethical standards, promote fairness, transparency, accountability, and ensure the protection of human rights. Now, the key words or the key words that we need to get in this definition are fairness, transparency, accountability. We want to begin to advocate for AI systems that that can be fair, transparent, accountable, and in all, the AI system has to be safe, reliable, and free from bias. So with these AI systems, we prioritize ethical principles, ensuring AI technologies are safe, reliable, and free from bias. Now, this is actually the whole idea of responsible AI. And this is why we are taking, the policymakers are taking all the effort to, sensitize people, to talk to organizations, to focus on building AI that is responsible and free from bias, that is going to be good for the human nature. Okay. So some examples of responsible AI. So it's good also for you to have an idea how some of the things that we call responsible AI. So in the health sector or in the healthcare, responsible AI frameworks ensure that medical algorithms do not discriminate against minority or certain patient groups. So what happens here is that we've had cases, especially during COVID-19, where the scheduling algorithm that's used to assign bed space to patients, was assigning bed space to patients that are likely to survive. So if you have patients that are already, in their critical condition, it doesn't assign it to them because they claimed that they had very little bed space. Now, it is why it is trying to maximize the fact that, okay, let us work and save the people that are likely to survive. It's not being fair on the other people. They are also human beings, right? One life loss is supposed to be a life for all that we speak for. So such kind of AI system is already biased. So because and we're advocating for example, in the AI in the healthcare sector, so responsible AI framework ensures that the algorithm, like such algorithm that does all those allocation or scheduling of patients' bed space, then don't have to discriminate. We've had cases also in some very known hospitals in the US where if you are not of a certain class, you cannot be treated in that hospital. If you go there to register, the system will not really assign you any doctor, because normally you have to get assigned to a doctor. The doctor talks to you, then make an appointment with you for you to be able to be treated. Then another example is AI in hiring. So bias detection tools help AI-powered hiring platforms provide fair evaluation of candidates. Now, we have also seen some level of bias in the hiring systems, where if you're asked to submit your resume, the system will never shortlist you for interview based on even when your skills are very good. We've seen systems that if you didn't finish from the Ivy League universities, you're not going to be shortlisted for the interview. That's how the system is programmed. So automatically it's just being biased against people that didn't finish from the Ivy League universities, even when you might be skilled more than the person that finished from such kind of university. So such bias, if it is removed in a hiring system, possibly having a hiring system that removes or maybe you have a hiring algorithm that actually favors male more than female. So such things happen. But if you build a system, or if there's an AI hiring tool that removes all these bias, then we can say it's responsible. We also have autonomous vehicles. Responsible AI ensures safety protocols to minimize accident and assign accountability in the decision-making process. So autonomous vehicles, when I was teaching this class in my grad student, I gave them one example where an autonomous vehicle has needed to make one out of two decisions. One is to run into, because the system failed, run into pedestrian walking through past the pedestrian walkway, or go hit a wall. Which one would they prefer? Utilitarianism will prefer to hit the wall because it's maximizing if it hits the wall, the autonomous vehicle possibly is going to have issues, maybe having less casualties, like maybe a few people in the car is going to die, than running into a whole lot of crowd passing the pedestrian walkway. So that is a failure, or it is where what we call an irresponsible kind of AI, because at that point, it is not programmed, it's not supposed to do so, it's not supposed to kill, it's not supposed to have a fail, as the case may be. So we advocate for autonomous vehicles that are as responsible and ensure safety protocols to minimize accident, and also they are very much accountable in decision-making process. Okay, so ethics in AI development and deployment. All right. So now, so why ethics matter? So why do we really consider ethics in AI development and deployment? We consider it because we want our AI systems to directly influence because AI systems directly influence human lives, So ethical considerations are critical to avoid unintended harm. Yes, one might build a system without knowing that it's going to harm people or it's going to maybe not harm them physically, but take their job. But we have it has always been, discussed, like if AI is going to take our jobs or not. So apparently, we have established that AI is not going to take anybody's job. However, AI is going to take the job of people who are not willing to learn the system. So if you learn the system, apparently you'll be part of the people that is going to be using the system. If you don't learn the system, well, I'm sorry, you'll be left behind. Okay, so we also have ethical AI practices that promote trust, reliability, and societal acceptance. We're talking about why ethics matter. So we are saying here now that ethical AI practices promote trust, reliability, and societal acceptance. And the next is the principles, for ethics in AI development and deployment. We have respect for human rights. First thing you need to do when you are building AI that, that you want to follow ethics, and in the development and deployment, you have to respect human rights. You don't have to build a system that will expose people's rights or expose people's privacy, You also consider commitment to fairness and equality. You are building a system that if it wants to do a classification, then you should be able to classify people or classify objects correctly. Okay, so we don't want a situation where you build a system, it does your classification very well for someone in Global South. If you bring it to Africa, then the classification fails. We've seen cases where, people, if you go to, let me still mention, okay, I'm not going to mention the company's name, but I will explain it so that I'm sure most of you will understand. It's a social media platform where, you could put up your photo and you click on something, it tells you that this is how you're going to look in the net when you're 6 years or when you're older, or it gives you a younger version of you. It does not look, sometimes you see that the photos it will show you will be photo of people that are not even close to you. Or it might just go and show you a white person's photo, for instance, So such things are not nice. And we also have ensuring privacy and data protection. So if you're working with people's data, you need to make sure that it's well protected. If you want to make it public, then you need to make sure that it's well anonymized, so that all the sensitive information will be removed. There are some organizations that if you want to get data from them, you may have to sign a lot of, you may have to sign a lot of NDA, like non-disclosure agreement or, stuff like that. So it is very important to follow all these principles when you want to build an ethical AI and we want to deploy it as well. So that will take us to fairness, accountability, and transparency in AI. We'll start with fairness. So we say that fairness in AI actually is basically ensuring AI systems provide equal opportunity and outcome for all individuals, avoiding discrimination. So this is actually what I was talking about before. When you have an AI system that is able to, give equal opportunity to all individuals without discrimination, then it makes sense. It makes sense. For example, if we have an AI system, used in hiring, so it should be able to evaluate, all candidates without evaluate them equally without considering their gender, their races, or even background. You should be able to do that, like what the example I gave earlier about the hiring process, where we have a system that actually shortlists people for interview based on where the school they graduated from, So it has to go with the Ivy League universities. And if you didn't finish from there, then it's not going to shortlist that person. And we have seen systems that, that prioritize men than women. Or if you are coming from, they'll ask you, which one do you identify as? For instance, you say you identify as Black. If immediately you say you identify as Black, the system automatically profiles you. They start, looking at unnecessary things. But if you don't identify as Black, you see that things will start moving faster. So we are looking at a system that does not, or a hiring system that does not look at people based on or hire people based on their background or race or gender, So it has to, or favor people based on a certain criteria, not, a criteria that is actually spread across board. Okay, we also have accountability. Accountability has to do with defining clear responsibility for AI decisions, especially when things go wrong. So this is very important. For instance, if a self-driving car causes accident, there should be clear accountability, for the decision-making process, whether it is developers, the company, or the AI itself. So corrective measures can actually be taken. Like I mentioned before, when we have an autonomous vehicle that run into the wall or run into people, we should know where the problem is coming from. The company should be able to tell us that this was a developer error, okay? Or this is the error of the company, or this is the error coming from the AI itself. Maybe misclassified. However, even if it does misclassify, we still have to trace it back to the developer or to the data it was trained with. Okay. There is also what we call virtue ethics. Virtue ethics has to do with the person developing the AI algorithm, because it has to do with the moral ethics of that person developing the AI algorithm. The moral ethics in this case is that if I feel I don't like a certain class of people, I can decide when I'm building the algorithm and make sure that the algorithm disenfranchise them or make sure it doesn't work for them properly. So the virtue ethics in this case, what it does is, if you are a good person, there's what they used to say, that you wear a human face. Yeah, you wear a human face to be able to build your AI algorithm or AI model, as the case may be, in order to be fair and accountable for all. So such cases, then you are sure that the AI will be accountable as much as possible. We also have transparency. So transparency actually helps in providing understandable explanation for how AI decisions are made, fostering trust and clarity. Now, for example, I'll just say, for example, if you have a loan approval AI system, it should be able to provide clear explanations for why a loan was approved or denied, okay? Then making it easy for applicants to understand the decision, and improving trust in the system. Now, if you have an AI system that actually helps us to do the loan application system, we have seen cases where people deny, especially in this part of the world, where people are denied loans because of maybe their credit score, or maybe their history, criminal record. Maybe they have criminal record, or they have bad history of paying back loans and all that. And sometimes some companies might not tell you. They'll just tell you, we're unable to offer you this loan right now, and they will stop it there, without giving you or telling you exactly what happens. Now, imagine if it is an AI system that is doing that. The AI system is asking you for your record. You put in your record, put in all your information. At the end of the day, it tells you, unfortunately, we cannot offer you this loan, without giving you any explanation. Then it's not transparent. it's not transparent because you don't even understand what happened, or what is why the decision was made or taken against the person. Okay, now that takes us to bias and fairness in AI. Bias and fairness in AI. I hope everyone is still hearing me, sorry.
Yes, we are hearing you. Go ahead, Dr. Ogbuokiri, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So now, first of all, I will start with what bias is. Now, in AI, we say that bias in AI occurs when algorithms systematically favor certain groups over others based on characteristics like race, gender, or socioeconomic status. Okay, I've mentioned a lot of, I've given you a lot of examples, for this issue of bias, where some AI model is trained with, let's say I have some level of data. I collected data from the global north, and the data is made up of white people. I use it to train a classification algorithm that actually does facial recognition. And I want this model to also classify facial recognition for Black people. Now, if it goes and because the model learned with the features of white people, when it sees me, it can, because it doesn't have much knowledge of a black person's face, there's a likelihood that it's going to be biased against me. And that is what happens in most of these AI models. So that is a bias for you. And sometimes bias can come from algorithms. It can also come from data itself. It can also come from data collection process itself as well. So you see that people, maybe you want to collect data, you decide to just go to the cities and collect data. You don't go to the villages to also get their own data to help your model, because you're not just trying to do it for them, you're also helping your model for your model to be smart enough to classify those kind of people when it sees them. So if you go to the city and collect your data alone, apparently your system is already biased, and the bias is coming from the data itself. The bias, again, can also come from the algorithm, When you create it to, like I said before, where the virtue ethics comes in, where maybe the person does not care about morals. All he cares about is business. I don't care what happens. You just build the algorithm in a way that it favors a certain class of people. Then it becomes biased as well. Okay, so I've also mentioned where algorithms actually assign base space for people who are likely to survive than people who are in a very critical situation, especially during the COVID period. Then another thing is fairness in AI. So fair AI systems strive to treat all individuals equitably, ensuring decisions are based on relevant and unbiased data. So, just repeating the same thing, fairness is a very key point in AI. It has to, you have to make sure that your data is balanced. Okay, I'll give you a scenario. If you want to build an AI model and you have, and when I say data must be balanced, okay, I should put it this way. When I say data must be balanced, it does not mean 50-50, okay? If you are coming in a place, you have, let's say, 1,000 male and 200 female, and you want to train the model, you can actually pick, let's say 10% of each model, 10% of each, to use it to train your model. That 10% now makes it a little bit of balance in that case, because for some reasons, maybe they don't have to be equal, but at least you should have substantial the number of or level of data points for you to be able to train for your system to be able to train on the minority class of that particular model. Okay. Okay, understanding and detecting bias. Now, it's also very important to, understand how bias occurs and, detect it. So well, that's what we call historical types of bias. That's what we call historical bias, resulting from resulting from biased training data. So an AI used for hiring may favor male candidates because it was trained on a historical data where men were predominantly hired for a certain role, reflecting kind of gender biases. I have cases where some jobs, some companies prefer to hire men because they feel men are the ones that actually give them the kind of result that they want. They are able to work very hard. Most of the factory jobs are done by men. Hardly you see a woman. And you repeat an algorithm to do that. They will prefer, maybe when you say you're a female, the system will automatically, not favor you. So in a case like that, a company can be more focused on employing men than women. And this is because this has been happening. This has actually given the company the result they want over time. So the history, it's a result of history of what they have. So that's why the historical bias comes in. Now you see that there's the word I used before, utilitarian, is where it comes in. The company will now be looking at which of these gives us the maximum optimal performance or maximum benefit. Is employing men that gives them. They don't care. They want to do that. They want to maximize their profit. Okay. Then another one is representation bias. The representation bias is when certain groups are underrepresented in a data set. Okay. So, for example, when you have a facial recognition algorithm or a facial recognition AI, it might perform poorly for people with darker skin tones because the training data was actually trained with people with lighter skin or individuals with light skin. This is also what I said earlier in the case of facial recognition. If you are doing building a model in the global north, or maybe in a country or in a place where you have a lot of people with light skin, and the data set you're using is from that particular, it's coming from people with such a skin color. Of course, it's going to actually be biased against people with black skin, because the underrepresented group or the minority class in the data set or group in the data set will not be able to have enough data to be trained or to train the model, so that when the model will be smart to recognize these black people when it sees them. We also have measurement bias. Okay, so measurement bias, actually what it does is when incorrect or biased metrics are used to train models. Okay, so having an AI model used to predict job success may rely on a biased metrics. Okay, so which could be like college attendance, which is what I said before, like the university the person attended, or kind of maybe race can also come in, and this can actually be a disadvantage to individuals who are, who are from a certain class. Maybe if it is for people that went to Ivy League universities, if you cannot afford it, or if you don't have the, let me just say, if you cannot affordability for now, if you cannot afford it, it becomes a problem. So it becomes a challenge for individuals from lower socioeconomic background. Okay, so if you cannot afford such kind of school, or you don't have opportunity to go to such places, you will see that you will not be qualified for such to be in that set. I was telling people that we have a lot of intelligent or smart people in Africa. However, because of the system and the exposure they get, it's not as good as what they see here, what we see in the Western world, where you see from the classrooms, people are, programming, people are, doing any new technology, they're already having access to it. Sometimes you find out that you meet somebody, the person only what the person knows is just that thing he doesn't know any other thing outside that boss. when you bring our people and they have this kind, or you give our people the same kind of technology that we have here, we'll do better because we know a lot of things. An average Nigerian student can discuss soccer, discuss different things, but might not be, technologically savvy as the case may be. So we looked at measurement bias when incorrect or biased metrics are used to train models, Okay, so now the detection method. Now we also need to consider detection method for this bias. How can we detect some of these bias? Number one is analyzing outcome across demographic groups. Now, if you want to analyze your data or analyze your model, you should be able to do it across board. Don't just do a selected analysis, which is gonna make it biased. If you want to also do a representative kind of analysis, then you should also do it across board. Like if you want to pick a sample data from different demography, if you do that, then it's gonna be able to, you should be able to pick from all the groups. Auditing AI models for discrepancies in predictions. You should also, when you build your AI model or AI systems, you should also be able to evaluate it or try to, check what it does. Did it do what it's supposed to do? Did it capture all the things it's supposed to capture? All the matrices used for measurement, are they all complete? Is it measuring across board? The performance, is it the same across board? What are the, that can help you to be able to know how the AI model performs. And the beautiful thing is that when you do that and find a problem, you try to investigate the problem, you fix it, you run it again, this process continues. So AI auditing is a very important aspect of the AI building model. Okay, so techniques to mitigate bias. There are different techniques to mitigate bias. Number one is pre-processing. So adjusting or balancing the data set before training. So before you train your model, you should be able to, of course, pre-process the model. For example, before training a job application model or job application AI system, you have to balance the data set, okay, if you want to use that as an example. And how do you balance the data set? You do it by adding more applications from underrepresented groups. You make sure that, all the groups that are supposed to be represented are represented so that the AI can learn, from all diverse groups and examples to be able to train itself so that whenever it sees an application coming from all these areas, it should be able to classify it. Then we have in processing. So that's using algorithms like adversary debiasing to reduce bias during training. So while you are training your machine learning or AI algorithms or AI model, as the case may be, for example, maybe a loan approval system, you use the adversary debiasing techniques that adjust the model, to minimize bias automatically. It does it like it tries to do it so that it's not biased against a particular applicant or a particular group. It will do that while it is while the model is being trained. Post-processing. So the post-processing actually helps us to modify outputs to ensure fair treatment across groups. For instance, if you have an AI system that has made loan approval, decisions, and you can actually adjust the final outcome to ensure that the applicants from all demography receive fair decisions or receive fair treatment, even if the AI system actually initially showed some bias. So, I mean, if the system you have seen, like I said earlier, the loan process where somebody was denied loan without giving any proper decision, like no traces of transparency in what decision was taken. I mean, now the post-processing can come in where an individual can now come check, okay, okay, we can actually say no to this one because maybe you have paid off your loan and the system was actually seeing that you owed for a long time. Maybe that's why your credit score is low. So they can actually, look at that. That's after decision has actually been made. So one important thing that everybody has to know is that continuous monitoring and improvement of AI systems is crucial to ensure fairness over time. Okay. Okay. In conclusion, for just your takeaways, responsible AI focuses on ethics, fairness, transparency, and accountability in AI. And understanding and mitigating bias is crucial to ensure AI benefits all individuals equally. And continuous development of ethical frameworks is necessary to meet the challenges of evolving AI technologies. So we have gotten all this, and these are also very important that with the knowledge that we have now, when we are building our AI systems, we are looking out for AI system that is responsible in the sense that it has to be fair for all. It doesn't have to be biased. It has to be ethical. It has to be fair, and it has to be transparent for all, And even if you're not building, maybe you're using an AI system, then you can watch out for all these things, At this time, I will say thank you very much for your time. And once again, I will have to apologize for the interruption that happened. It is technology and it just happened. Thank you, and I'll wait for your questions. Hello?
Hello. Oh, at the time I stopped hearing you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Ogbuokiri, for such an insightful lecture. Jotted a lot of things down. There are a lot of new stuff you've brought tonight, and here. And put up here. All right. So the first one is from Chiko Dilugushu. He says, what is the major difference between bias and fairness? What is the major difference between bias and fairness? All right. Do you want me to read all the questions? You take them one by one?
We can take it one at a time.
Go ahead.
I'll take it one at a time. Before I answer that, I'll just have to go to my slide and show you the discussion there. If you go to where I talked about before bias and fairness, yes. Okay. Can you see my screen, please?
Sure.
All right, we'll say that bias in AI occurs when algorithms systematically favor certain groups, okay, over others based on characteristics like race, gender, or socioeconomic status. Fairness in AI systems, when you say fair AI systems, they try to treat all individuals equally, ensuring decisions are based on relevant and unbiased data. Now, look at it in perspective. When we talk about biased AI systems, we're looking at AI systems that favor a certain kind of people. Especially it can come from the algorithm, and the favor can be based on characteristics like race, gender, or their socioeconomic groups. And fairness now looks at the system, how it treats the individuals, whether it treats them equally or it makes decisions I mean, bias actually gives rise to fairness. Okay, bias, because when it is bias, then it will be unfair to people. But if it is not bias, then it will be fair. So that is the thin line or the relationship.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. I'll take the next question. Okay, it says, please, Doc, ponder the ethical considerations for the implementation of AI and revisit important strategies for ensuring responsible and ethical use of AI. So I think this question is from Menike Gabriel. So I think he wants you to emphasize more on the considerations for, that's ethical considerations for implementing AI systems, and of course the important strategies that one must adopt to ensure that one achieves responsible and ethical use of AI. All right, I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Okay. So in terms of ethical consideration, that's why I opened this part. There are some things you need to consider when you want to build a system, and you want to consider ethics in it. It is also very important to look at the kind of problem you're solving and the kind of people or the kind of end users that you're going to deploy the AI system, for. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, why does ethics matter? Okay, in solving such problem. We said here that AI systems directly influence, because they directly influence human beings. So if your system is going to directly influence human beings, then ethical considerations are critical, and to avoid unintended harms. What happens here is that you might build an AI system hoping that it's going to do the right thing, and people deploy it, and it does they went to use it in a way that is not doing the wrong thing. We have cases where you deploy an AI system in an office, instead of them to use it to do the work, they use it against the system, So those are supposed to be important. And some of the other things is issue of trust, reliability, and societal acceptance. Now, you need to, before you build an AI system, you need to also let the people know what you want to do and why you want to do what you want to do. Because if you build an AI system and bring it and people, reject it wholeheartedly, then it becomes something that people will fight for. But if they are carried along from your process of data collection, you take all you get all the approvals that you need to, this ethics cut across even law. The lawyers will come in and tell you, this AI system has to behave this way or have to behave that way. We have cases where we've seen ethical frameworks. Countries are building ethical frameworks for AI, like in order to say these are the do's and don'ts for the country, so that when you're building your AI model, you follow that. So in terms of implementation, if you're someone that implements AI system, you need to first of all consider the ethical policy of the organization that you want to deploy the AI for. Okay, because you don't want to go do something overboard, and you have to follow these principles. Build a system that has to that have respect for human rights, commitment to fairness and equality, ensure privacy and data protection. So that is that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for that. We still have a number of questions, but we'll maybe have to be fast in taking them because of time. All right, so just hold on. Let me get to where I stopped. Okay. Yes, this one is coming from Kelechi Ezema. He said, hi, Dr. Blessing. Thanks for the great talk. Just a quick clarification regarding bias in AI. you mentioned bias arising from the AI model architecture. Are there any exemplary cases where the data set was substantially unbiased, e.g., with equal representation of demographies such as race or
I think I missed.
Are there examples where the data was unbiased and then there was still the results or the model produced a biased result? That's what he's saying in a nutshell. Is it possible to have unbiased data and then get a biased model?
Okay, I get it now. So thank you very much for that. So yes and no. For the greater percentage, when you have an unbiased data, there's a likelihood that your model is not gonna there's a likelihood that your model will be unbiased. Your model will be your model will be unbiased, right? So it's not going to be biased at a greater percentage. However, there's what we call virtue ethics, which I mentioned before, which has to do with moral of the developer himself. The researchers are actually, they've not actually gotten to the level where they build AI models that actually accommodate virtue ethics. We are still looking at virtue ethics on the developer point of view. If you have a biased developer, then you can build a biased algorithm, even with the balanced data set. The person can build a biased model in a way that it favors, tweak the algorithm in a way that it favors a certain class of people or a certain set of people. I'll give you an example. You see that sometimes companies build technologies and they send it out there for people to use. And after a while, you see them recalling that product. They are recalling it for some reasons. Either the product is not giving them the kind of result they want, or the reviews they are getting from people is not good enough, or they find out that there's a defect in the algorithm. Maybe there's some things that are not not followed ethically the way it's supposed to go. Even when possibly the data set or the data that they use to train the model or build the system or product, as the case may be, is very good, but they record it because they want to make sure that the algorithm is fair and unbiased. So I think that answers that question. So it can come in both ways, but for greater percentage, if the data is balanced, there's a likelihood that the system will produce a balanced AI and unbiased AI system. However, when virtue ethics comes in, if we have some developers that are not nice, I may say, you'll see that they become biased or the algorithm becomes biased.
Thank you very much. Yes, he mentioned different types of biases. So if the data is unbiased, you could still have bias coming from some other source. All right, thank you very much for that. The next question is, okay, this one just a comment from Adorobai. Says, thank you, Dr. Blessing. It was an interesting and educating presentation. The next one is from Nemeka Ohamadike. He says, many thanks for the very insightful presentation. You recommended balancing training data using other data sets during pre-processing as one way of debiasing AI models. Doesn't that also introduce bias? That is, the model is not representative of the real world. Did you get the question?
I'm trying to understand what the person is asking. Anyways, my knowledge of that is, balancing the data set, balancing the data set during pre-processing. Well, there's no bias being introduced here, actually, because as long as using other data set during pre-processing as one way of the biasing, okay, so So I don't know if I get the question correctly, but what I can get here is that it's important that when when you are doing your preprocessing, you try as much as you can to balance the data set. Okay, so even if you're using a representative of the data, okay, remember I made mention that in training algorithms or in training your model, you can take a representative of the data to train the model. Then now you do what we call what's it called again? Like if you want to do more like a verification to validation, yes, to use some of the data that is remaining to validate what you have trained. In large language models, when we build models and we want to, be sure that we want to train our model in the large language models like GPT or any class of GPT, we do what we call fine tuning. We fine tune the model on GPT, and it takes a lot of memory space. It takes a lot of computing power. So what we do is to do a representative of the data point. So we can actually select the data, select a representative of it and because your large language models or GPT are actually trained with billions of parameters. So they are very smart in learning. With any small amount of the representation of your data set, you can fine tune your model on large language models. And that way you can use whatever thing you get there to train or to classify or to predict your entire data set, as the case may be. So that can actually serve. And there's also what we call synthesis of data set or data augmentation. If I have small amount of data for for a minority class, I can do synthesis of that data to get to augment it. Like I can, create a dummy a look-alike of that same data set to be able to train my model, to make it to balance it. So we can do that. So that's what I can say in that for that question.
All right, thank you very much. And when it's talking about representative data, it means you can get a slice of the data from different data points to do your training. That's what he's saying. And good enough, we have other means of validation. You have the validation data set, you have the test data set. This will also help you to verify what you have done. All right, thank you very much. Next question is coming from Akini Olumide. He says, does hyperparameter tuning curtail biasness in AI systems? Does hyperparameter tuning curtail biasness in AI systems?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. What you do in hyperparameter tuning?
Dr. Ogbuokiri.
Yes, I'm answering.
Dr. Ogbuokiri, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So hyperparameter tuning does not curtail bias it doesn't introduce bias. Oh, well, it depends. It depends. You can actually tune your parameters to actually favor a certain class of people. Yes, you can fine tune, do hyperparameter tuning in a way that it will introduce bias in the algorithm. Remember what you do in your parameter tuning is you're trying to make your algorithms to be able to or your model to be able to be smart enough to learn from the data, right? So assuming the way it learned the first time, it doesn't give you, maybe depending on the performance metrics you're using, it doesn't give you a very good performance metric. It doesn't give you a very good result in terms of the performance metrics you're using to measure it, maybe accuracy, precision, recall, all those kind of things. Now you can actually fine tune or do some parameter tuning to be able to increase the performance, for it to, whether it's doing classification, regression, analysis, or whatever kind of result is giving, whatever kind of classification is giving you. So I am feeling like this question is it's a little bit technical. However, I believe, because I haven't experienced this, but I believe that you could actually introduce some level of bias the way you fine tune the way you fine tune your parameters. You might decide to use it to favor a certain class, depending on how you want to build your model. Because another one is hyperparameter tuning. Also, sometimes it's also for the generality of the model. You have to use it to make the model perform very well. So it's a 50-50 actually.
Thank you. There are a lot of questions, but I'm not surprised because these are the hot areas of AI. And I'm even thinking that maybe next webinar, we may have to focus on each of these because you are dealing with about 4 or 5 big topics all in one. So no wonder these questions. I think next time we may have to take fairness one and separately, accountability, transparency, and all that, because they are each of them are very large area. All right, so we'll still have to answer these questions. Thank you, Dr. Ogbuokiri. Yes, the next question, just a minute, is asking, this is coming from Obilon Michael. Say, thank you, Dr. Blessing, for doing justice to the topic. Please, is it possible to build a responsible AI to mirror human feelings, stroke emotions in decision-making? This is an interesting one. Is it possible to build a responsible AI to mirror human feelings, stroke emotions in decision-making? What's your take?
So AI is not a human being. It doesn't, even though when we address them as he or she, sometimes AI systems does not have feelings. So they're not built to have feelings. However, in the case of emotion, there are systems. I've actually done a research that uses emotions to predict how people react. The emotions were gotten from the text, from the tweets, when people type, when people send messages. So when you are typing something, you can actually be expressing your emotions of what you're typing. And there are keywords that actually identifies emotions and their classes. Like we have sadness, we have anger, we have happiness, we have surprise as part of different emotions. There are a lot of them. Now, if I'm building an AI model that wants to service or that wants to deal with emotion, I will have to consider that kind of data set. So my own kind of system that I built is that I was using text or posts from social media to either to be precise, to check whether it was what people were posting on social media, if it's as a reflection of the way they were taking vaccines during the Omicron period. And what necessitated that is we were looking for which part of the emotion was actually responsible for the action people were taking. We correlated emotions we have a measure that we have a model that we built that we are using to measure emotions from the words. So AI systems can actually be trained based on what people text messages people are typing to be able to get emotions. We can also use voice to also check the stress patterns and everything to be able to get emotions from it and use it to train a model AI system, which can actually decipher how emotions can be. However, in terms of feeling, AI systems does not have feelings, but we can be trained to, recognize a certain class of emotion.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to add that you can also use emojis also to look at facial expressions. I've seen systems where they train using facial expressions to communicate emotions. All right.
Yes.
All right. All right. So let's get to the next question because of time. Caroline Asogwa says, "Thanks so much, Blessing. Please, I don't know why the system in your example of a case of a system hitting the wall instead of running into a walkway should be considered irresponsible AI, because even in nature, that would be the best option." You get that?
Yes,
that
I get it.
for this
Yes. So I think the question you didn't get it properly. So what happens is that there are two conditions here, right? And the system has to take one. There are a few people, maybe one or two in the autonomous vehicle, and we have a large number of persons crossing the pedestrian walkway. Okay, you know how you have zebra crossing and the people are crossing there. Now, the autonomous vehicle fails, that the AI system failed. Now, the idea is, in a situation, if you're a programmer or you're the person at the back end, if you're programming this and there's a system, the system fails in this case, what should you do? And we said that utilitarian, being a system that allows for the most profitable one, in this case, the one that will reduce harm, the most one that will reduce harm, even though the both are going to cause harm, is hitting the wall. Because if you hit the wall, yes, the machine is gonna, maybe the wall will crack, or maybe it's one or two persons in the vehicle might be injured, that is much more better than running into a large number of persons, which you don't even know whether they are kids or they are adults. You might get up to 5, 6, 7, 8 people. So that is the case, the picture we are trying to paint in that case.
Okay, I hope it is clearer now. All right. So the next question is from Jane Francis Ihedioha. Can AI systems be censored or regulated to avoid unethical practices which can result to harm? Can AI systems be censored or regulated to avoid unethical practices which can result to harm?
Oh, yeah. So the answer is yes. It can be regulated. AI systems, that's why we have these regulatory frameworks, right? And like I said earlier, we have countries right now that are bringing their AI regulatory framework policy white papers or regulatory frameworks that they are, European Union has their own, the American, United States also have their own, like a lot of regulatory bodies now are coming up with white paper that this AI product or AI models should follow this standard. Yes, to answer your question directly, we can actually censor these AI systems, regulate them. How do you regulate it? You bring out this framework in a way that when you are building, you follow the guidelines, the ethical guidelines for you to build. However, please, they say, just to mention this, not considering that AI actually has to be that way. You can actually deploy AI systems, and people will now use it to also perform ethical things, right?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, I can't hear you. Is it from my end?
Yeah, I think it's from your end. Okay. So the answer is yes, anyways. Yes, I think I've answered that. Okay, Prof. I don't know if we should answer the next question.
Okay, good. Yes, it can be censored. Particularly, I was part of the team that drafted Nigeria's AI policy with NIDA, and such regulations were the things we drew so that people who are developing AI systems are regulated. Not the AI system that is regulated, but the people who are developing it. All right, so the next question is from Izuchukwu Uzo. What's the difference between AI auditing and AI model performance evaluation? What's the difference between AI auditing and AI model performance evaluation?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. So AI, I'll start with performance evaluation. The performance evaluation is what you do as a developer, right? You want to check how good or how well your model is performing based on what you want it to do for you. For instance, if you are building a classification algorithm that you want it to classify between male or female, or you want it to classify between white or black, when you build, you have to evaluate what you have built to know whether it's actually doing what you want it to do, and if it is doing it correctly. You see, if it has actually done it, then I said, what percentage did it do it? Did you just classify only 2 or 3 correctly and leave the rest? That's where precision and recall comes in. Then you also have the cases of true positive and false negative and all that. When maybe it is a man and he classifies it as female, or if it is a female, classifies it as male, as the case may be. So that's where a performance evaluation of the model or algorithm comes in. But AI performance, AI auditing is when you have deployed this system, right? And they are using it. You need to audit the system and know whether it's actually doing what you asked it to do. If it is not doing it, or people are now using it to do another thing, just like the way you audit your companies, like you have auditing firms, right, that audit how things, but they don't do it every day. They will just allow you to run the system for maybe a year. At the end of the year, they do the auditing, or every 6 months, as the case may be. So that's the difference.
All right, thank you. There are a lot of terminologies. Okay, Maguba Zwani is asking, do you think ChatGPT has bias? Do you think ChatGPT has bias? I don't know how you're going to answer this, but go ahead.
Well, I have not experienced bias on ChatGPT. You know, OpenAI has a lot of products, so ChatGPT is just one part of their product. I use GPT itself. I use GPT to fine-tune my models. So there are, and it gives me what I want. Being biased, I don't think so. I mean, it gives me what I ask it to do for me. So it's a prompt, and I don't know. I cannot say it does. From my own experience, I have not experienced any bias on it, and I have not read anything bias about it. I don't think so. I don't think so. However, there's a possibility that there's biasness in the way it was built. Maybe the data they collected, the parameters they used to build it. There might be. I've not really checked the architecture of ChatGPT to know what kind of data they use. But all the things I use it for, it gives me the answer. It tells me what it want to tell me to the best of his ability.
All right, thank you. I think we're on the last question. It's been very engaging. In a situation, this is coming from Akini Yolumide. This is the second question. In a situation where the natural population is not balanced, will an AI model be accurate if the developer enforces fairness by balancing the data set? For example, in Nigeria has more Muslims and Christians. So I don't know if you got that.
Okay, I got it. So now, what you are saying in essence is that in the case where we are building a model in Nigerian setting, we have other religions, right? We have smaller religions. If you build a model and you want to be fair, so if you want to build it the way it is, it's going to favor the Muslims and the Christians. That's my understanding of the question. That it's going to be biased against smaller religions. So what happens is that it's just where I said you need to get substantial amount of the minority data or minority class of data to be able to also train the model to recognize those minority class. Okay, even when you have the bigger picture. For instance, if I am building with 10 million data from the Muslims, maybe 7 million from the Christians, and I have 1,000, I should be able to fine tune and train my model in a way that because I mean, in this case, this is what I have. I cannot do more than that. This is the data available. We have cases where the minority class is just small. It's just small to hand manage that. You can do data augmentation. You can, synthesize the minority class to be able to come up to that majority class and train the model so that it can be able to be balanced. I don't know if that answers you. Yeah, that is actually the answer. I don't know if it answers you. Prof, are you there?
Do more than what the data you have is capable of doing. Thank you very much, everyone. It has been one of the most engaging webinars we have had in this series. Today is the third session, and next week is the last. Next week is the last one for this season, and the topic is interesting. I was looking for explainability, but here it is. Next week is going to be advanced topics in AI and data integration. Advanced topics in AI and data integration, where we'll be talking about explainability and interpretability in AI, importance and techniques for explaining AI models, tools for model interpretability, integrating data from multiple sources, data integration techniques, handling data heterogeneity and inconsistency, and then we look at real-world use cases. It appears to be very much engaging. Please, I'm sure you're not going to be reminded to keep a date with us. It's going to be very much engaging. And please, as we close, I've shared here the link to the HiPIC Lab website, where you can get the resources. You see the links. We're on YouTube. You see the YouTube link for the previous webinars. And this one also is going to be added there shortly during the weekend. And the materials also will be there for those who are asking. So I want to thank you, and I ask you to please give a digital applause to Dr. Ogbuokiri. And I want to thank you, and I say, have a wonderful weekend until we see again next Friday, the same venue and the same time. Thank you. Stay well, and God bless.